This will be the second video I've done on Tavius Robinson. I'm beginning to get a more clear picture of him. I've searched high and low. I believe I've watched 8 games, some from 2021, some from 2022. I believe he was drafted to be a pure outside linebacker for the Ravens. I'll get into my rationale as to why I think that as the video progresses. I am not 100% convinced about him being purely an outside linebacker, but I'm certainly leaning that way. Upon watching his game tape for the last 2 years, it is not the most readily apparent use of him. We never get a look at him, not one time, standing up outside the tackle. We never see him drop into coverage. He is always with his hand in the dirt. Let's get started. One of his great strengths is his length and the pop that he's got in his hand. You can see that clearly. He does a good job sinking his hips, and I think a very nice job for a 6'6" man getting under the pads of the opponent. Watch the take-on power that he gets here, and he just ragdolls the tackle at Alabama. You can see his head jerk back, and he just tosses him aside. Watch it at full clip. We see him here lined up at 3 technique. That violent pop, that shock that he has in his hands is consistent. When he fires them first and gets his hands into the chest of the opponent, he wins. Changes the line of scrimmage. We saw it just a second ago versus Alabama. We see it here versus Tennessee. Good pad level for a big guy, and he rocks him. Gets him off of his feet, disrupts that block in the backfield. But you see him shed here, get in on this tackle. Watch it again. Let me know if you've heard the Ravens outright declare how they plan to use him. I have not heard that yet. Now, if by virtue of his length and that shock that he has in his hands and that good pad level he can play with allows him to displace tackles in the SEC, I have pretty good faith that he's going to be able to set the edge as an outside linebacker, and it's pretty clear to me he's going to be able to dominate your average tight end out there as well. If the Ravens are planning to play him as a full-time 5 technique a la Brent Urban, I think that's an uphill climb. You're going to have to put on 15 to 20 pounds. As it is right now, he has a hard time handling double teams. We see it here at 3 tech. That won't change in the NFL, and guys will run at him. We see him washed downfield, driven downfield, and they run right behind those blocks. Against Vanderbilt, we see the running back make a nice cutback to score here. But again, we see good movement by a double team, this tight end and tackle taking on Tavius. Even at outside linebacker, wouldn't surprise me if he's asked to add some weight. But I think a move inside is just too tall a hill for him to climb. I think it's far more likely that he's an outside linebacker standing up outside the tackle. And what's more, I think he'll be more effective rushing from the inside on clear passing downs. We see him once again at 3 tech. You can see really underdeveloped in terms of take on of this double team. And he's moved downfield. I'm impressed with his effort. He's a consistent, high-effort guy, and he's fairly consistent, as I mentioned before, for playing with really good pad level, especially for a guy who's 6'6". You see that here, again, at 3 tech or perhaps 4i, I cannot tell. Just keeps after it, keeps after the play. Watch it again. Out of a wide 9 alignment. Again, he shows great pursuit, great effort. That ball's away from him, unblocked into the backfield. Doesn't give up on the play. Even though it looks like he's going to hit this gap, he still chases it down. First video I did on Tavius, that as it related to his pass rush, he was imprecise with his hands. As I watched games later in the season, I saw that improved. Now, it improved primarily on rushes from the inside. We see him here at 5 tech. He may have improved his technique in that regard overall just by virtue of working on it through the year. But it also has a lot to do with the fact that he's rushing from inside where there isn't as much space, and he can get his hands active early. Always has good ball get off. That's him at 5 technique outside. You do see a violent one-arm swat there that sends the tackle spinning. And he's cutting quarterbacks in half. I see him as an outside linebacker who can provide some rush on the outside, but whose primary strength at this point would be rushing from the interior. Watch it again. I think the combination of his ball get off, his athleticism, length, power, is going to be too much for these guys on the interior. Watch him on this stunt. Good lateral agility and violent hands right here. You can see he gets him reeling with that swat and then swims over, and he's going to cut once again this QB in half. Unfortunately, he gets a targeting penalty here. But you can see his speed laterally and his improved hand usage. Once again, rushing from the inside on this stunt. His go-to off the edge right now is his bull rush. He always has good ball get off, fast upfield. One of the things that makes this not work, he really heads directly at the tackle. He doesn't threaten the outside shoulder at all. Not crazy about his hand placement. Does continue to run his feet, but the tackle really does a good job staying in front of him. We see a much more effective bull rush from him this time off the right tackle side. You see that he does threaten upfield, in particular the outside shoulder of the tackle, and then turn inside. Plays with much better pad level on this rush. Right there, you see him get under the pads of the tackle, drop his hips, run his legs, really do a good job working the tackle there. One of the things he might be able to improve is getting off this block a little sooner as he sees the quarterback flushed. But that's a nice rush off the right tackle side. Again, I think he is an outside linebacker in McDonald's defense as opposed to a hand and dirt 5 tech. He provides some rush off the edge, but I think he'll be most effective early, moved inside on obvious passing downs. I like his ball get off, like the pop that he has in his hands. He'll have to show that he can set the edge, play the run effectively, and I'm sure the Ravens will want to work him out dropping from the line. He is a slightly unusual physical type for that position. He appears heavier than 257. Very long-limbed legs and arms. You can see this imprecise hand strikes outside. Gives up his chest a little bit. After giving him a little bit more chance and watching a lot more tape, I find myself a lot more excited about him.